BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor, take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward.
Again, a lot of it just daily habits, what you do on a daily basis, and staying present and just saying, okay, I can't conquer this problem on the next hour, but I can just do the best I can within the next hour. And then eventually you do another hour, and a week or a month goes down the road and you've conquered the problem.
In today's episode, I interview head men's tennis coach Tony Bresky. At the time of recording, Tony's Wake Forest Demon Deacons are currently #1 in NCAA college tennis and are pursuing their second national championship after winning the indoor championship in the fall. In the episode, we dive into the enriching conversation of Coach Bresky's life, how he's able to develop his coaching acumen, and he shares insights on building a successful tennis team. We also tap into handling adversity and the significance of maintaining a positive attitude no matter the circumstances. We also explore his journey from a young tennis player in Canada to becoming a celebrated collegiate coach. Coach Bresky also discusses family, work-life balance, recruiting philosophies, and the future of college tennis. If anybody has goals, dreams, or ambitions, or want to go after what they are built to be, this episode is for you.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Kollman Gearhart. A former athlete and motivational coach, I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
It's a humbling day again at the BTB Project, as I have a coach that knows a thing or two about winning. And at the time of recording, I believe that they are a perfect 32-0. He bleeds the Demon Deacon blood, comes with a lot of history of helping players go on their own journey of pro tennis, accomplish what they can in college tennis, but more importantly, help these individuals be well-rounded young men as they go out into the world. It just brings me a tremendous honor to welcome the head men's tennis coach of Wake Forest, Coach Tony Bresky. Welcome to the BTB Project.
Thanks, Coleman. Excited to be here. Let's do this.
Excellent. As I mentioned, things are looking up for you. I know that this is probably a deja vu of 2018, where you were the indoor national champion and you were probably going on a similar walk at this time, close to the ACC championships and pursuing the end of the season for the outdoors. What does it feel like this time around, knowing that you've been there before and have a group of guys that could potentially do it again?
It's exciting. To be honest, I get asked that quite a lot. And honestly, you don't really think about it too much if you're doing it right. It's people always talk about process and doing things on a daily basis, but I think that is very true. And it's about 11:15 here. I've been on the court for 2.5 hours already this morning with some guys, doing some individual work, practice this afternoon, a couple more individuals. So I think the easiest way to take pressure off yourself and off the guys is just think about our long-term goals and then maybe our more immediate goals on a daily basis and just focus on that stuff. Something like a national title is obviously always going to be in the back of your mind, but I think for us, we're thinking more immediate. We got a huge match with NC State on Saturday. They're #4 in the country, undefeated in the ACC as well, like us. You know, what a great opportunity for us and them, and I'm sure they're going to do a great job and have that place packed with fans, and it's close enough where a lot of loyal, diehard fans will come. You know, what an awesome opportunity for our guys. Be the showcase of college tennis Saturday at 5 p.m. And kind of thinking like that, you don't really think about the long term of winning a national title or what's next or the ACC tournament. You're just thinking, hey, what's next, and day by day, and do the best you can. And those kind of results will take care of themselves if you're doing all the right things.
No, 100%. And rightfully, you should be fielding a lot of questions about your success because it is unprecedented what you guys are doing, and watching the element of college tennis from when I used to play to where it is now, and watching these matches at 3-all and deciding points and clinch cam and all those types of things. It's truly remarkable what you're doing. Listen, I know that all of this doesn't just come out of thin air, Coach, and I need you to help me understand how inspiring soccer player from Toronto, Canada ends up being this unprecedented successful collegiate as coach.
Yeah, you did some research for sure. Funny question. I was a very late starter in tennis. I didn't play my first tournament till I was 13, which in tennis is extremely late, right? And I think my parents, great parents, Czech immigrants, not very competitive. So from a sports aspect, they would put me in sports, but whether I won or lost was pretty irrelevant to them. So I don't know why. For some reason, I'm incredibly competitive and driven that way, which is very opposite to them and my family. And I fell in love with tennis because of the individual aspect of it. And part of it, I think, what makes tennis, in my opinion, one of the hardest sports out there. If you take team sports, which I love the team side of tennis, but you don't, obviously in a team sport, you don't have full control, right? Where in tennis, ultimately the outcome and your success and who you are, and there's no judges. That's just, you have the ability to be as good as you want to be, right? And no one can judge you, and no one can say, "Oh, hey, you scored 3 goals, but I think this guy's better, so you're not playing," or "You're going to play defense," or something like that. Or, "Hey, I scored 3 goals, but my team lost." So there's just nowhere to hide in tennis, right? Which makes it I've always said it's the hardest sport. If you're not feeling it on a particular day and you go out there and you give a 80% effort, you're going to lose. Where I played a ton of team sports and soccer and baseball and hockey. The reality is they're great sports, but you can get away with giving a 90% effort on a certain day, and you can hide within the team kind of portion of it, right? On a particular day, where if you do that in tennis, if you're really a true competitor, I think you understand that the end result is on you, right? Whether you win or lose. And it's amazing, us tennis players, I joke about it with my guys all the time. We joke about having built-ins. I say, hey, all the greats have built-ins. And they're like, what are those? They're like, your built-in excuse before you go play, because you have to have one. What is it today? Is it windy? Is it sunny? Is it your racket? Did you get a bad call? What's your excuse? Because it's so hard for tennis players to ultimately just be able to say, hey, I lost because I wasn't good enough. That's a hard thing for any person to say. So I don't know. I think I fell in love with that aspect of the sport. And even though I was a late starter, I grew into it and was able to get a scholarship to come play Division I tennis. And obviously it's never thought about being a coach. Was a undergrad in accounting, ended up getting an MBA, worked in finance for a little bit, and just came back to tennis.
You and I are on the same page. I started tennis when I was 14 years old. I had an older brother that was 4 years older than me, and he could beat me in every single sport: football, basketball, baseball. And I picked up a racket my freshman year of high school and ended up beating him his senior year for the last spot on varsity. And the story was told from there, right? And
I'm sure he loved that.
oh, he duct taped me to a flagpole afterwards. So it was it was an interesting time, but
Fair enough.
yes, yes. But being able to take that late blooming, right? I've heard you say on a previous podcast that it allowed you to not get burnt out like some of the other juniors that you were competing against. And I found myself in a very similar situation where 18, 19 years old, I'm playing guys in college that used to crush me in juniors, and all of a sudden I'm beating them. So when it comes to your coaching career that you ultimately fell into, do you believe that your hunger and drive to help these players stems from your ability to not have been burnt out?
I think so. Yeah. I think another thing that really helped me too was actually working in finance for a year.
Yeah.
When you do something you don't love, which obviously I didn't love that, I think it gives you a much more full appreciation of doing what I do now and just understanding, man, no matter what, my worst day, I'm still outside on a tennis court around young people competing. Obviously, college athletics has changed, the landscape has changed, but I think that really helped me. And when I got done with college playing, I really think I look back on it now, I wasn't really done playing, right?
Yeah.
I wish, like, I still had better tennis in me. I was playing the best tennis of my life. I played a couple pro events. I was probably a little too realistic, about my level, knowing that I had no chance to make it, right? And so I wasn't going to go spend a certain amount of money. And then I had an opportunity to go get a master's and continue my education and go be a coach, and said, okay, I don't want to pass that up. In hindsight, maybe I wish I would have played a little bit more. I recommend that to almost all my guys. It's easier to do now as I'm older and I see the world a little differently. And I try to teach them, hey, you're going to have a long time to work, whether you're going to try to make it or not. And obviously some of that comes down to, hey, do you have the financial resources to do it? And do you have some support? And how much do you love it? But if you still love it, I recommend it to all our guys. So I do think that's probably played a role in my coaching philosophy and where I am now.
Yeah, knowing that you did spend a little bit of time behind a desk and then even tried the tour yourself, I think there's a lot of relatability to guys that are coming into your program to where you can help them see their future because they're coming in with, from what I understand, your program is built to help these guys go on and play pro tennis at the highest level when they're done. And
For sure.
the window is very narrow and it's very challenging. And for you to have that perspective, I think is pretty powerful. But ultimately, the hard part with tennis, and you've mentioned it, is you're a little bit siloed. You're out there on your own. Every mistake and every success is highly magnified. So ultimately, when you think of team and you think of a highly individualized sport, how in the world do you get these guys to come together to have a common outcome like a 32-0 right now?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is making sure you're recruiting guys who have the same kind of goal going into it. And as a coach, being very clear about what you're looking for, right? And I think there's so many different things colleges offer. And I'm not saying one is wrong or right. It really just comes down to what you're looking for, right? And so when we recruit kids, we're trying to tell them exactly what we're looking for, which is guys who are extremely passionate about tennis and have an aspiration of playing professional tennis, right? And so I think we're very clear about that in the recruiting process. So every scholarship guy we have is looking to play pro tennis.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of the guys that are either paying their own way or on financial aid have that in the back of their minds. I think when you're working towards that and you understand the coaches are working towards that with you, and I think hopefully our actions reflect what I produce in the recruiting process, right? So the way we treat them as individuals, to how we train, to their fitness, to their nutrition, to their schedule, to the tournaments we bring in, to the tournaments we take them to, reflects that we're trying to develop them into pro tennis players. And so I think you put that all together and you have a common goal. And obviously in tennis, look, you do end up spending a ton of time together, right? From road trips to dinners to practice. So obviously, again, recruiting good people who are going to appreciate what you're doing for them and just who are motivated to succeed. And you put that together with other people who have the same goals, and you're going to have some success, I think.
Yeah, and being able to reflect back on that team success, obviously your stint at Virginia and Cornell, two tremendous accomplishments. But when you were able to take on to campus at Wake Forest when you first started and walking the grounds and familiarizing yourself with what you knew of the university and what it could become, I know that you said that you sometimes were realistic with your tennis game, but when it comes to building a championship culture and having that vision, did you ever imagine, Coach, that you would be where you're at today when you first took campus?
It's a good question. I don't know if I ever really thought about it that way. I think at the time I was thinking about, yeah, I was very familiar with Wake Forest in that we played them when I was at Virginia, right? So I knew of the campus and of the reputation of the university academically, and obviously being in the ACC. So I think you think about it as, okay, is this a place where I can do what we just discussed, try to help guys develop to be pro tennis players? And then can I build that team? Did I ever think, okay, we could build it to the level that we won a national championship in 2018 or we're number one in the country now? I don't know if I ever thought about that coming into it. I think it's just one of those things, again, as someone who's extremely competitive and wants to succeed at the highest levels. Eventually, as the program develops, you're always looking to improve and be better. When I first took over the job, we were very bad. We had, I think we had 6 guys on the roster and 1 guy quit the second day I was here. So we had 5 guys in the roster the fall. We brought in a couple in January. We mucked through the season and the guys on the team did a great job. And I think we finished 69 in the country my first year, which I'll be the first to tell you, we highly, highly overachieved to be 69 in the country that year. And I think the guys on the team that year will tell you that too. But I don't think you think about going from 69 to, hey, we want to win a national title, right? You go, okay, what's the next step? Next step is, okay, let's try to qualify for NCAAs and let's make NCAAs. So you do that the next year. And then you say, okay, what's the next step? Maybe try to be top 10. And so you just keep trying to progress. The next year, you're like, okay, hey, we've done this, we've done that. Let's try to build on to the next step. So it's just, I think it took baby steps, realistically. I don't think I had some grand vision when I thought about coming here. Oh man, I could go there and win a national title. It was more like, hey, can I go there and build a successful program with people that I enjoy being around and help them? I think the goals we discussed, try to be professional tennis players while getting a great education. And you start small from there and build up to it.
Yeah, the question's very intentional because I was able to ask that same question to 17-time national champion Dick Gould. And it's funny because we always get just enamored with success and what allows people to have just these monumental moments. But when I asked that very same question to Coach Gould, he pushed back against me a little bit, saying, I never thought that I was ever going to be able to accomplish this. I was just trying to stay present with my guys.
Yeah.
And then I learned that his tennis career started when his mom was taking him to horseback riding lessons on a farm. And he loved horseback riding. And his mom kept driving by this tennis court on this farm out in the middle of nowhere. And she said, hey, would you ever try playing tennis? And he looked over and he's like, I want nothing to do with that. And then they got a little bit closer to the courts and he saw these 2 pretty girls playing tennis. And that's actually what got him into tennis, was the pretty girls. So ultimately, as I'm saying that to you, and you think back to Western Illinois and what you're doing now, is it sometimes hard for you to explain the big picture because you yourself thrive on staying present with your guys?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's just, like you said, if you think about my tennis past to probably be where we are right now is quite abnormal. I think at the same time, I had the luxury of seeing something in a friend of mine that I worked with, something more abnormal than anything. A guy, Brian Boland, who hired me at Virginia. His tennis history is him as a player. He's a Division III guy, didn't really know much about tennis. I started working with him at Indiana State. He really didn't know anything about coaching. And he evolved to the point where he won national titles at Virginia and became the director of tennis at the USTA, right? The number 1 guy at the USTA, from a guy who, hardly played at a high level, right? So his story, I think, makes mine like you follow your mentors a little bit, right? And you learn from those situations. And he was just a great example of what you could do with just daily hard work, positive attitude, good decisions, being motivated, stuff like that. Just simple stuff that I think people take for granted in their daily lives.
Yeah, coach, there's a lot of people that tune in to the podcast that are trying to find their way, whether it's a inspiring college tennis player, other college coaches, people that are trying to work the 9 to 5 behind the desk. And maybe they're in the middle of some really tough adversity right now. Maybe things are not going the way that they want. And you and I both know, even though the record is pretty shiny right now, that it doesn't come with a fair share of adversity. So when I
Sure.
see the word adversity and you think of whether it's this year's team or your journey in itself as a coach, how are you able to help overcome those moments of the lowest of low to be in a position like you're in right now?
I think tennis is a great example for life. And much like you just said there, we talk about adversity a lot. Adversity in tennis, just adversity on a daily basis, adversity in life. Like all the best coaches I've been around, like my former assistant Chris Eaton or my current assistant Brian Baker, myself, Brian Boland, all those guys. It's what I think we've all learned from spending a lot of time around pro tennis or some of the best players in the world, watching a ton of it, understanding it, is that the best players generally are the ones who handle adversity the best, right? It's like you go play a tennis match and it's easy to have a great attitude and be very positive when you go out and you win 6-2, 6-2, and you won the lets fell your way and the calls went your way. And that happens very rarely, right? So if you want to be good, you have to handle, like I was joking with you about built-ins, and you have to handle all the things that come with a tennis match, whether it's super windy or you woke up with a sore neck or you feel like you got a bad call or your opponent plays a style you don't like or the court doesn't play a certain way that you don't like. And those are ultimately, I think those are all choices you make, which is like the privilege you have. You choose how to handle those situations. And a lot of times you see it. You've been around tennis a lot, guys that choose to go the other way and use that as an excuse not to fight and not to win. And I think that's where tennis comes into play in your daily life, because you have to make the choice to choose to fight and to choose to overcome. In tennis, it's small adversity, right? It's, hey, it's windy, or like I said, whatever that adversity is. But tennis players all the time choose not to overcome that adversity, right? And the best guys always choose to overcome it. It's much like, I think, life, where you're going to have a lot of adversity. Things aren't going to always go your way, whether it's, personal or professional or with your health or whatever it is. And it's how do you choose to handle those moments, and how positive can you be? And again, a lot of it just daily habits, what you do on a daily basis, and staying present and just saying, okay, I can't conquer this problem on the next hour, but I can just do the best I can within the next hour. And then eventually you do another hour, and whatever it is, a week or a month goes down the road and you've conquered the problem. So it's a lot of what we talk to the guys about as well.
Yeah, I think of recruiting and trying to obviously bridge the gap between UTR and top players from various countries, all the things that you're looking at. I've been told a few times by coaches that when they go see a kid play, they're selfishly hoping that they catch the kid in a tournament having a bad day, meaning they're double faulting like crazy, or forehands are spraying long, whatever it may be, because they want to see how they handle the adversity of that moment rather than just rolling a kid 2-2. So as I'm walking through that and you think of your recruiting process and putting these puzzle pieces together of a highly individualized sport to create a team, to have a common outcome, when I am talking about adversity and guys coming from multiple countries to where they are at Wake Forest, how do you bridge that gap of their talent and their ability to overcome hard things?
Yeah, good question. I think that is kind of the challenge of coaching at this level, right? I think with the guys we're going to recruit at this level, a lot of the technical side of their tennis is pretty established, right? If you think you're going to get someone at 18 or 19 and they're going to have a serious technical flaw and you're going to remold that, pretty tough. I haven't seen it work too often. It can, but it's very unlikely, right? So the challenge is, how do you teach them to deal with the adversity? How do they handle the tough moments? For a lot of the guys we're recruiting, how do they handle the fact that they didn't have any intention of coming to college and always thought they were going to be a pro? And now they're in college and they're playing 4 or 5 singles and losing college matches. And how do they handle that adversity of, oh, wow, maybe I'm not as good as I thought, or what do my parents think, or what does my girlfriend think, or I was number 1 in my country and everyone's telling me how great I was, till harsh reality hits of where my actual level is. So how do we bridge that gap and continue to build for them so they can keep their goals in mind and so they can progress to what they're trying to accomplish? So I think that's the challenge. And I think it's very individual. I think the way we deal with it with one guy isn't necessarily the same we deal with it with another guy. And you got to figure out what works for each guy. And that's, in a way, that's how we run our program a lot. And look, I love the team aspect of college tennis. It's what draws me to it.
Yeah.
You know, I've always loved being on a team, but tennis is still a very, very individual sport, right? And the way we train a certain guy, from on court to what we do for their fitness to what we do for the mental aspect of the sport, is very different for each guy.
Yeah, I've heard you say a few times on previous podcasts that you go through a few pieces of gum as a coach. Listen, playing the game of tennis can be very stressful from what I remember in my career. But after coaching for over 22 years myself, some of the most stressful moments have come actually more as a coach than as a player. You've talked about what you do for your guys to help them mentally. I do want to pick your brain at some point about how you keep them upright, because injury prevention has got to be key to keeping your key players in the lineup. But ultimately, when it comes to you as a coach, how do you keep yourself in alignment between the ears to be able to handle those moments where your players just want to see stability from their leader?
I think that just comes really naturally to me. It's pretty simple. My wife jokes with me all the time. She just says I'm the most consistent person she knows. But just that, really, just trying to have a great attitude every day, trying to be positive every day, trying to make the most out of every day. I think showing appreciation for what you have in life and the opportunity that I have as a coach. And I think obviously having a great family with my wife and daughters helps. And that always keeps things in perspective, right? Like the winning and losing. And my daughters are going to come running up to me after every match, whether we win or lose. And that's almost always the best moment of the match for me. So it's just having that perspective on what you're trying to do on a daily basis and not overthinking it.
And where I just give you an immense amount of respect, being a husband and father myself, is the balancing act that you play, where you have so many hours in the day and the amount of giving that you have to do to the Wake Forest program to then make sure you're given to your family. A lot of folks that tune into the podcast, Coach, are trying to do the same balancing act. So I'd love for you to share what allows you to have, if there's such thing as work-life balance, or to where family is such an important part of your life. How have you been able to balance that through your coaching journey?
That's an easy one. It all comes from my wife. Honestly, I just don't, I don't know if she'll listen to this, but I can't give
You're our
her
better
enough
half for a reason, right?
I can't give her enough credit, right? I think to be able to have a family, it helps. Look, she played college tennis. She actually coached college tennis. Her dad was a associate AD. Her brother played college basketball. He works in sports. So she has a full understanding of what I do, and the hours and the inconsistency of the job. There's not, hey, what time are you going to be home? And I could say, oh, I think around 6. And some days that could turn into 7:30. And there's no, oh, what happened? It's, oh, we stayed late to work on this guy's serve, or had to deal with this recruit or something came up, or, oh, hey, it's Wednesday. Hey, by the way, tomorrow I'm flying to Croatia to see a kid. I'll be back in 3 days. And it's like, oh, okay. Sounds good. Go get him. Make sure he's good. Deal. She's in it with me as a team, so she totally understands what I do. And I don't think for me to have our family with her would be possible if it wasn't for the way she thinks about it.
And I think of meaningful moments as you say that with family, and obviously being a coach, I love watching people succeed or lifting trophies, whatever it may be. I just have to ask, when you have a moment like 2018 or what you guys just did with national indoors, and you get that moment to take a photo with your family on the hierarchy, like the Mount Rushmore of success for Coach Bresky. I mean, where do those moments with your family lie in the moments that you have with your team?
They take precedent for sure. I think that's what you said. It's the first thing when we do accomplish those things. It's the first thing I think of always is, okay, you win and you're like, okay, that's great. And then you're like, okay, where's my wife and kids? And that's who, especially my kids are young. They're starting to understand it a little bit more now, 9 and 7. Right. But obviously my wife sees what I go through on a daily basis and what kind of effort it takes and the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And so she's a huge part of it. My family's a huge part of it. So they'll travel with me to every big event. They were at national indoors. They'll be at ACCs. They'll be at NCAAs. So very fortunate to have that opportunity that they can come to all those things and be part of it. So they get to know the guys on the team, the other coaches, their families. I think we try to treat Wake Forest tennis as much like a family atmosphere as we can. So, all the families and wives and everyone, try to get them to come to as much of it as possible. And I try to provide as much work-life balance as possible while being as competitive as we are. And I think, like you said, that's the best part about it, is sharing those moments with them.
And just those moments are becoming few and far between, I feel like, as we're looking at a NCAA and landscape of roster limits and a lot of changes with college sports that I just got to pick your brain on, because I have a unique perspective here, Coach. You and I are very similar. My tennis program was also cut at the University of North Colorado over COVID. And when I tried to play college tennis, I actually wanted to walk on at CU, Colorado. At the time, they were 21 in the country, and a year later, they cut their program. So programs for tennis, I believe, on the men's side are already starting to dwindle and becoming few and far between. Being at the top of college tennis right now and seeing the landscape, what do you see the future of college tennis looking like? Or are we all eventually going to be holding pickleball rackets?
It's also a good question. I don't know. I don't love the way it's going, right? I understand what's going on. I can't say for us in tennis, I love it, right? I don't love roster limits. A lot of kids on current rosters are going to lose spots. A lot of kids coming up are going to lose spots. So I just think it's tough. I think from the participation aspect, it's not amazing. I know there's reasons behind it. And obviously a lot of it stems from football and the finances behind football. For tennis, I don't think it's great. And where I see it going, it's really tough to know, right? The amount of changes we've seen since we won NCAAs in 2018 to now, which is about a 7-year span, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I think those changes are going to continue to happen. I know, house settlement, there's some progress on that this week, nothing finalized, but looks like it's probably going to get finalized, with hopefully what I'm hoping for is some amendments.
Yeah.
With maybe like grandfathering in the roster limits or stuff like that. So we'll just have to see what ends up happening. And I think I don't think it's great for aspiring college players. Sure, maybe for the very best ones, but for especially a lot of American kids now that are looking to go play college tennis, look, there's going to be spots for them. It just might not be spots at the schools they want to go to. I can't say I'm a huge fan of it. As always, and we talk about adversity, right?
Yep.
You have to just deal with it and do the best with what's presented to you and go from there.
It's crazy talking about players and coaching perspective, but here I am as a parent where my son is a senior in high school and is navigating the recruiting aspects that we just discussed. He's a track and field guy in cross country.
Yep.
He's going to go take his talents to Butler University next year, and having the conversations that he had and the conversations that you're having with recruits. What is the structure of your program from what you saw in 2018 to the structure that it is now? Are you changing or tweaking the way that you're recruiting because of these NCAA regulations?
I think we're a little bit in limbo right now, is that we're probably waiting to hear a final decision. Right now, we only have one kid signed for next year. Certainly, we lose a lot out of this year's team. Certainly, we'll be looking for one or two more, depending on how things shape up. So I think it's more just a kind of just wait and see exactly what happens and then make the best decisions you can from there.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair enough and makes complete sense. The ability to not only have the group of guys that you have, but the season of these matches, and obviously conference and the outdoor NCAA is coming up here soon. When you think of the mental preparation of going into postseason, does the tone or demeanor of the team change for these types of moments, or is it just status quo like you're playing a midseason match?
Yeah, I think if you're doing a good job, I don't think it changes that much. I think what we always talk about, and even in practice, is just trying to do things very consistently and doing them the same as much as possible, right? And treating a Friday, February match the same as we would NCAA semifinal or ACC final, because I think obviously part of the issue is how do you handle the nerves, right? And I think the last thing you want to do as a coach is you want to build something up so much that it's different than what you do on a daily basis, right? So one of the things I tell the guys a ton is, look, you need to find a way to care more in practice and then care less in matches. And we talk about that a lot. And it's kind of like, hey, you went out in practice today and you maybe gave it 85% effort, or today you were great, you were going for your second serve. Okay, if you want to go for that second serve and you want to go for that forehand down line, you better do it in a match, right? Otherwise, you're not practicing what you do in a match. So it's just the stuff you do every day in practice, just duplicating that in matches. And the more you do it and treating them all the same. I mean, look, naturally, guys aren't dumb, right? They're going to know they're playing for something a little bigger, right? But I think the more you can do that and the more you can find a way to take the pressure off them with the preparation and how they do it over the course of the year, and saying, hey, this February 10th match is really important. We have to do a great job here. And then you get into May and you're like, hey, this isn't as important. This isn't that important. Now just go play. They're, like I said, they're not naive enough to totally fall for that. But I think it's just trying to take the pressure off them.
Yeah, I had the great Greg Patton on the podcast, and he shared a fun story about how he keeps his guys loose at practice, where he'll be jamming reggae music because the beats per minute is exactly where the heart
Right.
and the strike of the ball coincides with reggae music. So I have to ask more pointedly to you, Coach. You have a lot of different cultures. You have a lot of different countries coming together to this unified program at Wake Forest. What do you do that might be out of the box or oddball to make things fun for these guys during such a tension-filled season?
Good question. I don't think we have anything specific that we do. I think it's like we talk about, it's just a lot of the same stuff on a daily basis with the practices and the spending time together, the conditioning, the weights, the road trips, and just, yeah, I will say one odd thing is that a lot of us have a lot of superstitions.
Yep.
Not necessarily in a good way. They get old, so we go on the road, and at this point, it's just a running joke. We're so sick of eating out back the night before a match, and I'm pretty sick of wearing the same sweatshirt for every match. I started that at the start of the year, and now I catch myself wearing a sweatshirt when it's 85 degrees out because we haven't lost, right? And so it's just stuff like that that I think a lot of the guys have now bought into, and we're always like, everyone's in the same seats in the vans. You just run with it. And more or less, it's a running joke. I think we all have perspective that that's not going to make a difference, but we've just ran with that.
100%. And I think of legacy, and obviously you've had a lot of years into this, coach. And I'm just curious, when at the end of this season and as you continue your coaching journey and you think about when this is all said and done, what do you want people to remember of what you've been able to not only accomplish, but maybe more behind the scenes of the interactions with the players, or talking to the families of these young men that are entrusting you to come to campus and to play tennis for you? What are some attributes or things that come to mind that you would like to be remembered for?
Yeah, I think just a lot of what you said there is just the memories you make together, the obviously the great times, but the bad times, how you, so it's what I've always thought why I immediately fell in love with college tennis, in that it doesn't take away the individual aspect of the sport, but you still get to compete as an individual, but you're a part of a team. So it's like the best of everything, right? And so now I think for me personally, and when we talked about trying to go play afterwards,
Yeah.
part of my issue was while I was in college, I formed such great bonds with my teammates. And so one of my biggest motivators for going to run every day or going to hit serves or trying to work on my game was making sure I didn't lose for them in a big moment, right? And then you get out of that situation and you're like, oh, wow, maybe not quite as motivated because it's all for me. So I think it's just when I talk to the guys a lot about, we discuss a lot, is okay, it's still individual, but now you're playing for something more than yourself, right? You're playing for your teammates, and you're playing for your coaches, and you're playing for the administrators and the trainer and the strength and conditioning coach and our families and our fans. And so that's an acquired taste for a lot of these guys, right? And my running joke with a lot of these guys when they first come in, great players, and you have to teach them how to become part of the team and how to play for something, for more than yourself, right? And I think a lot of times the guys, all of a sudden they come to college and like, oh my God, I'm so much more nervous than when I go play. And I go, of course, because people actually care about what you're doing now. And they're like, what do you mean? Because they put pro tennis on such a pedestal, right? And they think, oh, I want to be a pro and I go play this futures event. It's important as a challenger. And they quickly realize playing a dual match in front of 500 people is way more pressure than playing the second round of some 30K futures event where there's 2 people watching and 3 people that care. Maybe your coach, maybe your parents, if you're lucky, your girlfriend, 4 people, right? So it's just a different, when you ask what I want to be remembered for, I think, I don't know. I don't really think about it that much. I think it's just the camaraderie and the friendships and going to all my former players' weddings and being a part of their lives. I think I have a group chat where I add every time someone graduates, they get added to the group chat. So just the bonds that all our alumni have and the memories they had when they played. Like I said, every year there's going to be some wins or some great moments. So just those moments that you cherish together are the best parts of this job.
Makes perfect sense. And last couple for you, coach. You've been around just some of the best mascots ever. Here you were as a Leatherneck. Now you're a Demon Deacon. I got folks tuning in the podcast being like, what in the heck are these mascots all about? So I just would love for you to give me the Wake Forest history in a nutshell. Demon Deacon, what is it and why is it so beloved at that university?
I love our mascot. I think it's so cool. I love the colors. Way better than the purple and gold I had back in the day. And I'm pretty good with mascots. The history, and I don't know the exact dates. I know somewhat of the story. I remember, what I've been told at least is
That wasn't on the application part of the test when you got
it wasn't part of the interview process. Back in the day, the football team was playing, and I think before TV, radio announcer said something like, they were playing well, said they're playing like demons, and it was already the Deacon. It was a Baptist university, so the Demon kind of jumped on with the Deacon. So Demon Deacons is how it evolved, and it's a pretty awesome mascot. Nice to have a unique one. I wouldn't want to be like a bulldog or a tiger.
Yeah, hey, absolutely.
You got to tell me what's Northern Colorado. I'm pretty good with mascots.
The Bears.
That's the Bears. Okay,
Yeah,
that's one I don't know.
We were pretty, and I was just like you. Even though I'm from Colorado and an American native, whether it was Colorado or Northern Colorado, I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to have a chance to play D1, kind of like your story.
Yep, very true.
You've been on quite a journey, Coach, and I know it started in Canada and now it's here at Wake Forest. And there's been a lot of perspective gained throughout your journey. But if you had an opportunity to go back, and maybe it's that 13-year-old inspiring tennis player that's wrapping up their soccer career there in Canada, and they're on a changeover in a tough match. They just lost the first set 6-1, down 4-1 in the second, and you got to put on your Wake Forest coaching hat and go back to your younger self and give them some words of wisdom, knowing what you know now on how to navigate tennis, how to navigate life. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a pretty simple one, and we've already discussed it. And I say this about tennis. I think it's probably the hardest sport there is, right? Because it's very hard for people to accept that they're not good enough, right? So it's so easy. I talked to my guys about this. It's so easy to find reasons to lose, right? And so when you're playing a match, if things aren't going your way or this guy might be better, it's so easy to say, hey, the stringer strung my racket wrong, or I hate this court. It's too fast, too slow, or, oh, I don't like playing in the wind, stuff like that. And I think it's funny. I like I told you, I was very competitive, and for a long time, I would take my losses really hard, but almost in a bad way, till I figured out that the reason I took my losses so hard was more often than not, you could find a spot in a match where you didn't give your best effort all the time because you needed an out as to why you were going to lose, right? Or you were like too angry. Things we talk about a lot is controlling things you can control, which is stuff like your attitude, your preparation, your nutrition, your mindset, and just doing the very best you can. And it's funny, when I figured that out, which was probably my last couple of years in college, was I just wanted to have the best preparation, best attitude, fight as hard as I could for every point. I handled the losses better, and I also lost a lot less. I don't know. I'm sure part of it was getting better, but I think the mindset of understanding how to handle losing and say, man, I did do everything right, though. I had a great attitude. I fought as hard as I could. I was super positive. I never quit. All those things that sound easy, but in tennis, I hate to say it, are extremely hard to do. And once you can handle those things, that's the advice I would have given myself, I think, which also makes you enjoy the whole process more.
So well said. And the piece that I love about it the most, Coach, is that it's not rocket science. It's actually pretty simple, but are we willing to be present enough to control our controllables, as you
Right.
said?
Yep.
And man, exciting times for you. I know that you got that last match here for the year, reigning indoor NCAA champions, going into ACCs and going into the outdoor season championships. Coach, I wish you and the Wake Forest program nothing but the best, and I appreciate you spending some time with me on the BTB Project.
You got it. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, man.